studio is here, even though our team is remote. So we deliver ads in 6 different languages, which I'm very proud of because it wasn't an easy process to streamline. If you know, localizing ads can be super challenging. So it's really fun to be able to help brands scale across multiple countries, working with local content creators. So that's really cool. And our team consists of creative strategists and copywriters, a full-service production studio, and we focus mainly on performance UGC. And performance UGC is not the real UGC, right? We don't really work with influencers or content creators. We work with them in the capacity of paid actors. So they come into the studio and they work with us to create these UGC style ads. And the reason why I chose to do it this way is because it gives us full control over the production. And if you're working closely with media buyers and you want to be able to quickly make iterations based on performance data, that control is key. If you don't have that control, not only over the legal aspects and the image rights of the assets and the raw files and the working files, you're not able to turn around iterations quickly and effectively and at scale. So that's why we chose to set things up this way. And then we have our growth design team, which is our graphic and motion designers that have experience in turning that content into ads for Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat. And our mission is to help brands and agencies overcome the biggest challenge for D2C brands right now, which is the rising cost of customer acquisition on paid social. Because yes, it's possible to lower CPAs with better direct response creatives. I'm sure you all know that it's possible to lower CPAs with better creatives. And I highlight direct response because that's our core focus. It's creating ads that are designed to boost conversions and not necessarily like build brand or generate awareness, but really just to drive sales. And you'll see me talk more about that later. So let's dive into what is data-driven creative strategy to kind of kick off the crash course. So data-driven creative strategy is creative production aligned with media buying for consistent creative testing and iteration. And this is what it looks like when you have the feedback loop operating properly between creative strategy, production, and the media buyers. So the media buyers are the ones with the power to test the ads, find winners at scale, and pull those reports that are super important. The creative strategists are then there to help interpret those reports in terms of which concepts work, which angles didn't, to help devise new concepts. Script briefs, brief production, and the production is there to, if you're a content creator, a production team, to shoot the content and turn it into ads. So this is what it looks like when that team or that feedback loop is working together and things are flowing. It's what we call the performance creative workflow. It starts with creative strategy and production. There's the delivery of ads and variations for testing. There's a performance analysis. Then there's the data-driven optimizations and performance analysis again. And it just goes on that cycle, which allows media buyers to scale with a consistent delivery of optimized ads. So we're going to touch on 3 things today: creative strategy, which I'll spend the most time talking about, production best practices, and iteration. Again, this is for direct response creatives. And as I'm sure you know, the best performing type, one of the best performing ad types now is videos, especially with TikTok, and performance UGC. So that's also what I'm going to be mostly focusing on. So for the creative...
Sorry, real quick. Are you changing your slides and we just can't see it? We're getting a couple of comments saying that your slides aren't moving.
Uh-oh. Am I still on the first slide?
Yeah.
I swear I'm screen sharing. Can you see it now? Screen sharing is on.
So let's see. So we're stuck on that home one.
I'm so sorry. I was literally sharing my screen the entire time and switched to a million slides. Okay, let's try this again. screen sharing?
Yes, we see your screen now. Let's see if you can like toggle between slides.
It says screen sharing is paused when I...
Oh, when you go into play mode? Okay, maybe what we could do then is just go back to how you had it before. And like, can you just zoom these in a little bit and you can kind of just go click one by one?
Let me try something else. Let me just hit sharing desktop, share, and then let's see if that works. Okay, I think that's good. Is that good?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see.
Woo, I'm sorry, let's try this again. So I talked about Creative Milkshake. I talked about 3 different teams within Creative Milkshake. And then I talked about our mission and our focus being direct response creatives to help lower CPAs. And what is data-driven creative strategy? And I went over the little graph of what it looks like when there's that clear feedback loop between media buyers, creative strategy, and the content production. And this is the workflow of when this team is working together and the feedback loop is clear. It's the performance creative workflow is what we call it. So there's creative strategy and production, ads get delivered with their variations for testing. There's performance analysis, data-driven optimizations, performance analysis again, which kickstarts that process. And this is how we're able to support media buying teams with consistently delivering optimized ads that help them scale. All right, so we are going to touch on 3 things: creative strategy, production, and iteration. And within creative strategy, this is like the crash course of how we basically train creative strategists in Creative Milkshake. This is something I'm super proud of because we're literally able to take junior hires who have never had experience with that, and within 90 days, they are fully making ads that make brands money. So obviously I'm not going to be able to cover everything in detail, but I did my best to try and summarize kind of the key things that we cover in our internal training. So understanding direct response fundamentals, how to do research analysis, developing concepts, storyboarding and scripting, and then later on optimization and iteration based on data. So starting with direct response fundamentals, and understanding that 95% of our decision making comes from the subconscious mind. That's a fact, and it's so important as a creative strategist to understand that you're not selling a product, you're selling the problem it solves and how it makes people feel. I always go back to this when I'm reviewing script or storyboards or concepts from the team, and where's the feeling? Where is you wrote too much about the product features, focus on how it actually makes people feel. So this is really, really good to keep in mind. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs are the key drivers of human behavior. Everything we do in our lives, in the end, boils down to these basic human needs. So always having that in the back of your mind when coming up with creative concepts, and understanding what will really be driving that customer's decision. And this is also something that is a different version of that. It's the science of customer emotion and the emotional drivers, not only of human behavior in general, but more specifically consumer behavior and why people buy the things that they buy. This is always nice to refer to when, again, creating concepts or scripting ads. Brands can definitely leverage this to help market their products. And with the demise of third-party data and interest targeting and all these things becoming inaccurate, subcultures are the new demographics. And what do I mean by that is, especially with TikTok, which is an incredible platform for people to create content and share content and their interests, and they kind of organize themselves into these kind of subgroups, and it's so good to leverage that and understand who are you targeting with your content. And we use this a lot for research. So based on the product category, going into these hashtags to really understand how do people create content around this? How do they talk about it? This is definitely very useful to use during your research and creative strategy stage. So the first step to developing a creative concept is really nailing the persona and the motivator, having that super clear from the get-go. So our direct response strategy focus on these key emotional motivators that drive consumer behavior. So the goal here is really to get inside the mind of your customer. And how do you do that? So there's a few ways that we do that. Basically, we want to fill in this graph with a unique persona and their motivator. And there's many ways that we can go about doing that. We always start with the zero-party data and copy mining. So zero-party data is any data that the customer has willingly shared with the brand by answering customer surveys or submitting reviews. And copy mining is our method of scouring through the internet to really get inside the mind of these consumers and understand why they buy the things they buy and what they care about. And here's a really good list of ways to do that. So asking your own customers or your clients' customers to fill out reviews and answer surveys. Dig into Amazon. It's always super helpful. If your product is not on Amazon, you can always go into the product category or your competitors. Reddit threads are also amazing. Blogs and articles. Pinterest trends are super helpful. Answer the Public is a tool similar to Google Trends, but a bit more visually easy to understand. And TikTok and Instagram search, especially TikTok search now, is becoming more and more powerful. The goal really when you are using all of these different tools is to answer the 3 questions. Who are they? Can you identify a couple different interest groups? What do they want? What problems did they solve and how did it make them feel when they bought a specific product? And how do they speak? And paying attention to the words that they use, jargon, slangs, etc. As a creative agency, we get briefs and brand books from brands all the time. And sometimes brands are super stuck on like, this is our tone, these are the words that we need to use, this is how we want to script the copy. And we always push back on that because especially if you're creating UGC style creatives, you don't want to have them come from the point of view of the brand. You want them to come from the customer's voice. So always paying attention to what words they're using and how they describe it. So then with all this research and these questions answered, you're hopefully able to fill out and identify who the persona is and their motivators. And this is just an example from one that we've done recently. So that's the first step to the creative strategy. So then we are ready to move on to the concept development stage. So this is the kind of map that we use for every single piece of creative that we make. It's how we present all of the research that we've done, not only looking into previous data and previous ads that were tested, but also our own research. This is how we develop the concepts. And I say formulate our hypothesis because at the end of the day, you want to really be intentionally creating a hypothesis with your strategy so that when you hand these ads off to be tested, you know exactly what you're learning from them. I'm testing this concept that speaks to this persona versus this concept that speaks to this persona, or I'm intentionally testing different ad types, talking to these specific pain points work best, or highlighting these specific USPs. So having that super identified from the beginning is really helpful when you get those creative reports back and you're like, yep, concept 1 was that. Now we know how to iterate and move forward. And some quick definitions if it's helpful. I keep saying concept, but it might be nice to define. So the ad concept is the overarching big idea that captures the audience's interest, influences their emotional response, and inspires them to take action. It's basically the main message of the ad. An ad type is an ad creative formula or a specific combination of elements that can be recreated and applied to multiple concepts. And I have a list of examples soon. And the pain point is a specific emotional motivator or problem the customer is trying to solve that you've chosen. And the benefits and unique selling points should be speaking to that specific problem or pain point that you identified. So ad types. I wish I had time to show you like many examples for each of these, but hopefully these terms are familiar. If they're not, let me know and I'm happy to share examples. So storytelling narrative, and maybe I should preface this with saying these are the current top performing ad types that we see. We deliver every month around 2,000 or more ads, and we get every week reports from how these ads are performing. So we have a pretty good sample size to like get this information from. And it's pretty safe to say that these are top performing ad types. So storytelling and narrative ads, before and after, green screen and screen recording, which is a trend that came from TikTok, a product demo or how to use video, a comparison like an us versus them or what I bought versus what I got, a social proof mashup, which is just a compilation of different customer testimonials. And if these are edited well and keeping them super short and punchy, they perform super well. A reaction video that starts with like an emotional reaction or someone reacting to a specific video, which also came from TikTok. Customer review or a use case study. Unboxing process, answering a question, which is that TikTok question box, or also can be the Instagram one. And it's interesting that we actually noticed that negative questions perform better. So if you're going to create an ad that has someone answering a question, pick a common objection that people have about that product. Like, why is it so expensive? Or why does it have this ingredient? Or bad things that people would normally say. Those usually work really well. Text to voice, which is the TikTok robot voice. This makes the ad look and feel a lot more native to TikTok. So it's also a really easy to do voiceover style as well. A styling reel, this works mostly for fashion and apparel brands. Problem solution, so an ad that starts with a very clear visual demonstration of a product and then presents the product as the solution. And then trends. So checking the TikTok discovery page, seeing if there are any trends that you can hop on. So these are the ad types. So a pro tip from us is to use, I wish it was still called Addison, I don't love the name Foreplay, to keep a library of ad type references. So this is super useful if you're making ads at scale and your team can have a library of ad type references to choose from. It just makes the whole process so much easier because you're like, okay, I want to test as many ad types as I can for this brand. I want to do one unboxing, one green screen, one problem solution, and you have a library of reference that you can refer to for ad structure, scripting, the kinds of shots. It just makes the process so much more efficient. Also, test as many ad types as possible as your budget allows. So you can take one concept, which is the main message of the ad, and you can test that concept as an unboxing, as a social proof mashup, as a TikTok robot voice. Testing as many ad types as possible will increase your chances of finding a winner. And this is super important as well, obviously, especially if you're making TikTok ads, is considering TikTok's 3 content pillars. So content on TikTok is primarily entertainment, where TikTok started, dances, skits, performances. It's educational. People love to learn from other people. There's a lot of like lifestyle hacks, cooking recipes, skincare tips, makeup routines, history, philosophy, and so much more. And the aspirational concept, which is romanticizing everyday life, like your travels or your day-to-day routines. and making life look like a movie. So we always try to ask ourselves, if we're making ads for TikTok, does it fit into one of these categories? Because it will likely look less like an ad and it will probably work better. Okay, so when you are coming up with an ad, I would say like 60% of your energy should be into creating a really strong hook. I'm sure you've heard people talk about that all the time. The hook is the first few seconds of the video. It's what makes people stop scrolling. If people don't stop scrolling, then what's the point? And we break the hook up into two parts, the copy and the visuals. And when you're trying to test different hook variations or help you formulate hooks, there's different hook copy formulas we always resort to. So starting with the product, starting with the problem, solving the problem, asking a question about the problem, or making a list. So if you have a specific product that you're trying to sell, using this formula is super helpful to help you come up with the headlines or the hooks of the ad. Another thing that's really good to do is rely on TikTok trends to help you formulate hooks as well. So the beauty of TikTok trends is that it creates these patterns about how people talk about things. And it also helps the ad become more native. So we have a really big database that we pull from, and build your own, write these ones down, start writing ones that you notice on TikTok, and it just becomes so much easier to pick from a list of these and split test them because they're good and they work. Okay, so that's the copy part of the hook, then the visual part of the hook. Obviously, these are not all the different options of visual hooks that you can create, but we noticed that there's 3 types of visual hooks that are really strong and that we rely on very often. So the first one are problem-focused hooks. Either they show the problem right away, very clearly, they show the solution or the end result, or they show a before and after. Then there's emotional reaction hooks. This can be a positive or a negative or just a relatable reaction that will make people stop scrolling and want to see what they're reacting to, or they instantly identify with it because they often feel the same. And then the weird, gross, makes you look twice, kind of shocking and bizarre hooks. These work really well, but the key thing here is it has to connect to the product. The ad structure as a whole needs to be solid. These are great references and they make a very clear connection with the product and the problem it solves. Otherwise, you're just making clickbait, right? You're gonna have a very high scroll stopping rate, but then people are not gonna watch the video or click or buy. Okay, so you've done all your research, you've paid attention to your hooks, and now you're ready to develop these concepts. I'll show you an example of one that we've done recently for a brand that has different products, and we are testing different ad types, specific pain points, also for different personas, with their own key USPs and different concepts. So for each concept, we always start off by making 3 hook variations. And we find this to be very effective because, again, the hook has the biggest impact, right? It's what makes people stop scrolling. And it just allows you to not only validate a concept, but just to start your iteration process that much faster. So here's an example of concept 3, which was celebrity brands worth the hype. For this specific product, it's a testimonial with demos, and they all start with a different hook. The hooks have different lengths and focuses, but then the rest of the video is the same. So then when we identify this concept as a winner and we're ready to start making iterations, we're ready kind of like a step ahead by having that data on which hook is actually making people stop scrolling, which headline is actually working, and we start the iteration process more effectively. So you've developed your concepts, and you scripted your hooks and everything's clear. So now it's time to start storyboarding and scripting. A couple of things to keep in mind here are, it really depends on your approach and who you work with. So we prefer to script rather than give talking points. If you're working with great content creators, then oftentimes you can just give them a brief, and the content creators themselves understand creative strategy and direct response tactics. They know what a hook is. They know they need to have a call to action. If that's the case, then leverage that, give them talking points, let them be authentic, let them be creative, and you'll probably get a piece of content that will be, effective. But again, in our case, that's not how we approach our ad creation. We like to script every word, and we work with creators as actors in an environment that gives us control, specifically because we want to have those 3 clear hook variations. We want to have full control to quickly iterate. So this is what we consider when we are creating our storyboards and scripts. First, the anatomy of the ad, which you have the hook, which is the intro. In the body of the ad, you have different shots, like your talking heads, your product shots, your demos, and the CTA at the end. So one thing that we refer to all the time and that we use to not only during the research stage, but also the development stage of the creatives. So this makes it so easy to understand ads and basically reverse engineer any creative. You can take any ads, pick any ads, and you can apply this to the ads. So the structured building blocks are these ones, right? The hook, the body, the call to action. And the product blocks are blocks that focus on the product. So a section of the ad that introduces the product, a demo that shows how the product is used and how it works. The benefits, a block of the video that highlights the benefits of the product. The buying experience, this is when you show people going online or taking the quiz or ordering their product and it arriving at the door. That's the buying experience. The unboxing is the block where you show people receiving the product and focusing on the packaging and the texture and so on. And then there's the person-focused blocks. This is where you show the problem. You show the failed solution, them trying another solution that doesn't work. You show the final results, like your perfect skin or your perfect hair or your convenient solution. And then the before and after is where you compare both. And the storytelling is mostly talking heads, where they're talking about their product, the product and the benefits and so on. So with these ad building blocks, you can literally, like I said, pick any ad. It's actually a nice exercise, and try to be like, oh, okay, I see in the hook, they started with a demo, or they started by showing the problem, and then they intro the product, and then they talk about the benefits, and then they show the desired result, and then in the CTA, there's storytelling. So like I said, by understanding both ad types and ad building blocks, you're able to reverse engineer any creative, and it also makes the iteration process so much easier. So here's a super simplified version of what a script would look like using these building blocks. So in the first column, you have the shot. So this is a talking head, it's a texture shot, it's a demo, it's a selfie, it's a specific action. And the building block structure, it starts with the storytelling hook, then it goes to intro the product, desired results, benefits, desired results again, and CTA, and that's the script that goes along with it. And this is a little preview of the ad. So it starts with showing the problem, introduce the product, show the desired results, then she goes into the benefits and the different ingredients, and all the amazing things that it does, show the desired results, and you end with a strong CTA. So that's creative strategy. Let's dive into production. I'm not going to go super in-depth into production, especially when it comes to shooting great performance UGC. You really just have to nail the basics, right? And you have to master 3 types of shots: product shots, action shots, and talking heads. So the product shots are your unboxing shots, your buying experience, your texture shots, and your close-ups. The action shots are lifestyle shots, demonstrations of how to use either what it looks like or how you style it or how to actually use the product. And the talking heads, there's 3 types of talking heads. There's a selfie video, there's a showcase, which is when someone is actually holding the product, and then there's the green screen, which is when they're using that TikTok effect to layer something behind them. If you have these 3 types of contents in your arsenal, you can make amazing ads. Post-production. Once you develop the concepts, the scripts, you shot the content, and now it's time to edit it. These are the basic rules that our post-production team always keep in mind to make sure that we deliver ads that are ready to go live and look amazing in every placement. So a quick editing checklist, especially if it's for TikTok: design the first frame. The first frame is like that first millisecond, right? Or the first second. It's also the cover or thumbnail. This is super important for TikTok, but also for Facebook as well. I don't have actual hard evidence on this. I've split tested it multiple times. I just haven't heard it from like a rep or a source to be like, yeah, like thumbnails are so important, simply because like the algorithm cannot crawl through the entire video. It will like prioritize the thumbnail. That's just my theory. But other than that, use only native, fast, clean cut transitions, especially if you're doing UGC style creatives. You don't want it to stand out as an ad right away. Keep it to less than 30 seconds, ideally 15, especially if it's TikTok. Follow the native design system, and I'll show you what I mean, and check for safe space. The native design system is the fonts that are available for users when they are creating TikToks organically. So when you're editing your videos, making sure that you're using these fonts. So again, if it's specifically for TikTok, it doesn't stand out like an ad. If it's for Facebook, it doesn't really matter that much. You can use the brand fonts, you can use native design system fonts. Some brands just want to stick to their brand book, which is fine. I would say TikTok, it's a non-negotiable. You have to do these. Facebook, you have creative freedom, so to speak. So I touched on this briefly, but I think that thumbnails are one of the most important factors of the success of a video ad creative. Especially Facebook will favor a winning thumbnail. So thumbnail split testing and optimizing is very important. I would say this is in the later stage, right? So once you've validated the video concept and you've tested some iterations, and now you're actually looking for these little variations that allow you to scale that creative even further, testing different thumbnails is a good way to go. Ad formats. We always deliver ads in all 3 formats, mainly because I don't necessarily like the auto crop or auto placement features. I think it's important to customize the creative for every placement, because you just want your creative to look its best in every placement. You don't want like a square video being served on stories. Kind of defeats the purpose. Platform safe spaces. This is very important when you are creating ads for Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, or Snapchat. TikTok has a less forgiving safe space. And also when you are combining them. So if you're making a creative that will be used on, especially the vertical formats that will be used, or you plan on using it on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Reels, making sure that it follows the safe spaces so that the UI elements don't cover any important parts of your ad. Okay, so you have done your creative strategy, you've developed concepts, you've done your research, you scripted ads, you shot them, you edited them. Now it's time for iterations. First and foremost, get your naming conventions right. You have no idea how many creative reports we get every week with the ad names that are like ad 1, copy 2. And I just want to like, please, can you just get that right? Because no creative reporting tool in the world will be able to fully work for you if you don't get your naming conventions right. Put the most important things there. If the creative asset is the same, name it the same all throughout so you can actually see a compiled data that will actually be more effective for iterations. So the key performance metrics that we focus on when we are not only measuring creative performance, but helping formulate hypotheses for iterations is the 3-second rate retention, or the thumb stopping rates, which is 3-second views divided by impressions. The hold rates, which is through plays divided by 3-second views. So after the hook, did it actually make them keep watching the ad? The average watch time, the CTR, the click to purchase ratio, and obviously ROAS. So using Motion's consolidated reporting. If you guys are not using Motion, I assume you are because you're in the Creative Strategy Summit hosted by Motion. Get on Motion, it's a lifesaver. This is an example of a set of ads for a brand that we created ads for, and I've customized the columns for the metrics that are important for us. As you can see, there's a banger, there's a winner that's just like hitting all the green spots. So that kind of becomes our benchmark, right? That ad becomes our reference for everything that we want to be doing moving forward. So I really like this graph because the first thing that we usually do when we look at this is look at this and then combine it with our ad building blocks, and I'll get to that in a second. But usually the first way forward is like, okay, we can associate a metric to a certain part of the ads, right? So thumb stopping rate is the hook. Did the hook make them stop scrolling? Ideally, you want the hook to be 30, let's say 40% or more. Between 30 and 40 is a good hook. Then the hold rate. Does the video actually engage them after the hook? Does it keep them watching? Video average watch time, if it's above 4 or 5 seconds, it's really good. Usually videos that get to like 8 seconds, 10 seconds, they are videos that have like soft hooks or soft CTAs, or the editing is just super punchy that it just keeps people engaged and it just doesn't die. CTR is not only is it resonating with the audience, but does it have a strong CTA? And we also think about soft CTAs. You can have a soft CTA in the body of the ad and a strong one at the end of it. And then click-through rates and click-to-purchase rates are also really good metrics to help you judge if your creative has made people want to buy. So another part of Motion that we really like is the video journey, which helps to identify the drop-offs and the video play rates and what's going on there. So what we do is we use the building blocks to identify the winning elements and the drop-offs. So we'll go back to the ad, we'll look at the metrics, and then we'll break the ad up structure-wise with the building blocks to really help us identify like, okay, this hook, banger, it's working. Let's take this hook and add it to other ads. Or, okay, the drop-off is huge in this benefits section. Can we cut this out or insert another clip here, or maybe do a different shot? And the CTA, is it strong enough? Can we remix this somehow? This really helps our team. My team is very visual. we always need kind of this exercise to really be able to have a conversation around how we're going to make the iterations. So then we formulate our iteration hypotheses. This is just an example of one. So taking the metrics that I can share and our creative analysis, so interpreting the metrics, the thumb stopping rate needs to be higher, hold an average watch time is okay, but it could be better, has a high click to purchase ratio. This helps us understand what's really going on. And then the creative strategist will then develop an iteration strategy where on the version, we don't want to change the structure of the ad too much because it's working quite well. We just want to make small iterations to see if we can improve the metrics that could be better. So version A, for example, we would keep the voiceover and text layover, but test a new product shots in the hook. Version B, let's test a different font treatment to be similar to this reference to make it look more native. Maybe that will improve the thumb stopping rates. In version C, let's add a soft CTA after second 7 to help improve CTR or improve the drop-offs. So this is an example of how we would go about looking at the metrics, drawing correlations, and really thinking about how can we formulate iterations. And a tip from us is make mashups combining different elements from winning ads. So if you break up winning ads like this, like literally take different parts from different ads that you see have strong metrics. Maybe one has a strong hook, the other one has a strong CTA, and remix those. It's a super easy and effective way to iterate ads. Here's another example of how we use the building blocks to rethink creative. So let's say version A is the one we tested. Version B and C are the iterations we're making. We're just basically like remixing the ad by moving the building blocks around, which allows for faster iteration. And a reminder that there are endless ways to iterate an ad. You can change the hook text or the hook visual, you can change the voiceover, you can change the music, you can trim the video to make it shorter, you can change the order of the building blocks, like I said, you can add a CTA card at the end, you can create a reaction video to it, you can add a TikTok question box, you can use the TikTok text to voice, you can change the music, you can remix with another ad, extract the hook from it and place it in front of another ad. There's literally endless ways. You can take one ad and literally make like 30 versions of it. And nowadays I see that is the most effective way that media buyers have been able to scale it, just by simplifying account structure and focusing on doubling down on winning creatives by making iterations and helping the algorithm to serve them effectively. So that's an overview of the performance creative workflow that we talked about. So creative strategy and production, delivering the ad, doing a performance analysis, testing the ad optimization, and just going to support your media buying efforts. And that's it. I hope that was helpful. I see there are a lot of questions in the chat. Should we get to the questions?
Yeah, that was fantastic. Looks like a lot of people are thanking you. This thing moves super quick, so let's start posting some questions up. I think we've got maybe about 5 or 10 minutes for some Q&A. Best webinar for creative. Definitely agree. Nice. Okay, so the first question I see: does TikTok's 3 pillars also apply with Instagram? If not, what are Instagram's pillars?
That's a good question. It definitely applies to Reels. I would say Instagram pillars are pretty similar. I would add like an inspiration one to that, because Instagram is more about flexing. There's the aspirational side of it on TikTok, but I would add more of another one to Instagram. I don't know if that answers your question.
Sounded good to me. Let's see the next question. How do you think about iteration testing post iOS 14?
In terms of campaign structure, I guess?
I think so, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so in terms of campaign structure, a creative testing campaign, within the ad sets usually, and again, like this is not like a rule. There's no right or wrong way. There's just like best practices and what I see badass media buying teams doing, and what I think works best based on how we've seen Facebook change, and that is putting within the ad set the concept and its iterations. So you kind of let Facebook decide which version of that concept works best. ABO, CBO for your ad sets, I mean, that's kind of like on you. I lean towards ABO because I like to have a bit more control in terms of saying spend on testing this concept versus this one. When you find a winning concept or a winning version of the creative, moving that to a scaling campaign where you can start adding more iterations, for example, testing it with different copy or a different CTA button and so on.
Awesome. How do you count video views ratio in different parts of the video?
How do you count video view ratio in different parts of the video? You mean on the how motion counts it?
Yeah. Some of these questions are hard because they don't have a lot of context. We'll move to the next one if that person wants to follow up.
Okay. If it's about how motion does it, then I think it makes sense. Otherwise, I'm not sure of the context.
Yeah. Do you produce newsfeed format and story format same time?
That's a good question. I feel like sometimes we develop concepts it really depends on the product. Like sometimes we'll develop concepts that are specifically for reels and stories, and concepts that are more for feeds. I find that nowadays, especially with reels, again, it depends on how you set up your campaigns, but some media buyers will be like, okay, let's talk about top of funnel creatives, and we want to do top of funnel ads that will run on reels and stories, and then we'll retarget them on feeds. In that case, we would, but most of the time, no. We just format them for each placement.
Awesome, thank you. And are well-known creators or influencers needed for ads? So how do you think about like well-known people versus just like an everyday person like, me and you?
Very good question. It really depends on your objective, right? Like if you're trying to build brand awareness, credibility, then you could go for a big name influencer because it's gonna give you that. If you just want to like create content at scale in a cost-effective way, and in a way that will also not limit you a lot on the image and publicity rights, then I would say go for normal people, because like if you want to use an influencer, there's obviously going to be a lot more limitations on what you can do with that piece of content if it becomes your winner, for example. But if you make a winning piece of content with let's say a normal person, then you have a lot more room for negotiation in what you can do with their content.
Awesome. How do you prioritize creative ad types when you don't have a lot of learnings yet?
That's a really good one. I would say go for the 3 that makes the most sense for your audience and like product. So for example, if you are a fashion and apparel brand, you have to go for an ad type where you show people styling it and using it. Like just an unboxing, might not be enough. You actually want to see people using it. I would say always prioritize ad types that address, and this is my mindset of direct response creatives. Prioritize ad types that speak to a pain point, and these can be like storytelling or problem solution or before and after, that actually show like a transformation or how well the product works. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that was great. One interesting question is, have you seen a difference in creative performance with production quality? Sometimes it seems like really high-end production doesn't perform as well, but I could be really wrong. Do you notice between more like organic kind of UGC type content versus like high production, any difference in conversion?
I've looked into so many ad accounts recently, and I can tell you with confidence that it just depends, and there's room for both. Like, you'll see in the same ad account the lowest quality UGC video with like fuzzy audio, like working really well, and right alongside it a super polished studio high-end production creative. And the truth is, like, if you're targeting the same user with both, isn't it that much more effective? Maybe the super UGC will build that social proof and be like, okay, people like this. And then the studio high level production will elevate the brand and will justify a higher price, you know? So like, I think there's room for both. It's very hard to say, you know, one or the other is better. For TikTok, for sure, I think that for now, less production value is better. For Facebook, I think there's room for both.
Awesome. Then maybe one last question. When sourcing videos, how do you get different hooks from a single creator? So do you have them send you multiple hooks and then one full-length video? It feels like we're asking too much when we try to get multiple hooks from one creator for one ad type.
It really depends how you're working with your creators. Like, we work with them in the more studio environment, so like they still have their creative freedom, but we give them a clear script. And the script, I think I showed it in one of the slides, like in the top of the video with hook, there's just 3 lines, and then in the column for type of shot or description, one can be talking heads, the other can be demonstration, the other can be showing solution, and then you assign that to different lines. What you can also do is be a little cheeky and just be like, don't identify it as a hook, just give them a full script. It just happens that the first 3 lines are your hook lines, if that makes sense. It really depends on who you're working with.
Awesome. While I'm posting up your Twitter link, someone asked, what's your skincare routine? You're glowing.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. It's actually La Roche-Posay. It's like European pharmacy stuff, nothing too fancy.
Awesome. You're the best. Thank you for all of that. For those that are here, this link that I'm about to share should be the link that you guys have for the next session and thereafter. While I'm about to explain the next ones, can we please get a quick round of applause for her in the chat? She was fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys liked it. I see there's so many questions. I'm happy to share the slides. I don't know if you guys will share the slides. Otherwise, hit me up on Twitter and I'm happy to send you a link. And
yeah, I'll send you an email about it.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. Coming up next, literally in 3 minutes, we've got a panel on how to decide what to create next. Then we have one by Savannah Sanchez on decoding TikTok ads creation process. And we've got an awesome panel. So we've got a lot of other great stuff, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you on the next one. And I guess one final round of applause for you. You were awesome.
Woo! Thank you for Energy Summit. That was amazing. See you guys on the next presentation. Thank you so much.
You're fantastic.
Bye.
Bye.